Elijah entered his family's brownstone, the smell of simmering stew and baking bread filling the air. It was comforting, a stark contrast to the explosive world outside. His mother, a strong-willed woman with a heart of gold, sat stitching a torn shirt in the living room. She looked up, her deep-set eyes scanning Elijah. "You've been talking to those boys about the war again, haven't you?" Elijah hesitated. "Ma, this could be a chance, an opportunity for us to be seen as equals." She set down her sewing, her fingers trembling slightly. "Wars might change borders, son, but they rarely change minds. You might fight for a country, but will that country fight for you?" Elijah's younger sister, Naomi, piped in from the doorway, her voice filled with youthful hope. "But things are changing, Ma. With the war, they'll need every man, regardless of color. If Elijah fights, he could come back a hero." Their mother sighed deeply. "And what if he doesn't come back at all?" Later that evening, Elijah met with a group of friends in the local jazz club. The dim lighting and soulful music provided some relief from the tensions outside, but not for long. Marcus, a close friend of Elijah's since childhood, leaned in. "You seriously considering joining, Eli?" Elijah took a sip from his drink, the amber liquid burning his throat. "Maybe, if I go. If I fight, perhaps it'll mean something. Perhaps when I come back, they'll see me, not my skin." Marcus shook his head. "It's not worth it, man. This ain't our war. Why shed our blood for people who won't shed a tear for us?" Elijah replied, "Because maybe, just maybe, it's a chance to rewrite the narrative." Lena, Marcus's sister and a known activist in the community, joined the conversation. "Elijah, they've used us for centuries, treated us like tools, instruments. You think putting on a uniform will change that? You're just trading one set of chains for another." Elijah felt a whirlwind of emotions. "I don't have the answers, Lena. All I know is James Freeman ran for freedom. Maybe this is my run. My sprint towards a world where I'm not judged by the color of my skin." The night wore on, the saxophone's soulful cries echoing Elijah's internal turmoil. The allure of equality, of a seat at the table, clashed violently with the very real possibility of never returning home. Every conversation, every debate, left its mark on him, like cuts from an invisible blade. The quest for equality was never an easy one, and Elijah was learning that the hardest battles were often those fought within. The setting sun painted the Harlem skyline in hues of orange and red. Elijah, now back home, pulled out an old, dusty chest from beneath the family bed, the creaky hinges and the pungent aroma of aged wood and paper. Signaled memories, long stored away. Inside, an old, leather-bound journal beckoned. The words of James Freeman. As Elijah began to read, he was instantly transported to another time and place. The pages told tales of midnight escapes, close encounters with bounty hunters, and the undeniable spirit of a man unyielding in his quest for freedom. Through ink blots and faded letters, James Freeman came alive. One entry, stained with what looked like dried blood, detailed a particularly harrowing night. May 5th, 1845. "Last night was one of close calls. Me, Anna, and young Jacob nearly met our end at the hands of the Wilkins gang. As we darted through the woods, the dogs snarling at our heels, Anna tripped. Without thinking, I doubled back, slashing at one of the hounds with my knife. Blood sprayed, hot and metallic. The beast yelped, but it gave us the seconds we needed. We ran till dawn. The path to liberty is soaked in blood." Reading further, Elijah stumbled upon another intense passage. July 15th, 1846. "Helped 5 more souls on their path northward today. Every step, every breath is a defiance of those chains. But freedom's price is steep. We were ambushed. Bullets and screams filled the air. Sarah took a bullet for me as she fell, pleading, urging me to carry on. The taste of iron and dirt filled my mouth as I dragged her away, leaving a trail of crimson on the ground. Hours flew by, and with every page, Elijah felt the weight of his family name pressing down on him. The house seemed to reverberate with the echoes of those who came before him. Finally, closing the journal, he looked up to find Naomi watching him, her eyes reflecting the pain and pride intertwined in their lineage. "Do you see now?" she whispered. "Our bloodline is one of fighters, Elijah. From the chains of bondage to the trenches of war, we've always faced our challenges head on." Elijah nodded, a new fire burning in his eyes. James Freeman faced adversaries of flesh and blood. My enemies might be different, but the fight is the same. I carry his name, and with it, his legacy. Naomi gently touched his hand, and like him, you won't be alone. The legacy of James Freeman wasn't just in the tales of daring escapes and blood-soaked encounters. It was in the resilience and spirit he passed down through the generations. And as the storm clouds of war gathered on the horizon, Elijah was more determined than ever to uphold that legacy. The recruitment office was buzzing with activity. Men from all walks of life, drawn together by a common purpose, the impending war. Elijah hesitated at the entrance, taking in the myriad of faces, each mirroring his own mix of determination, uncertainty, and fear. As he stepped forward, registering his name, the recruiter gave him a once-over, noting the family name. Freeman. Eh? Any relation to James Freeman? Elijah straightened up, a hint of pride evident in his voice. The recruiter whistled, impressed. That's quite the lineage. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Physical training, paperwork, and endless drills. Each night, as he lay on his cot, the weight of his decision pressed upon him. Memories of his family, the tales of James, and the looming prospect of war clashed in a turbulent storm. One evening, as Elijah polished his newly issued boots, Marcus paid him a visit. The air was thick with tension as Marcus confronted his childhood friend. "You really going through with this, Eli? Marching off to face down the very machine guns and tanks we've only heard stories about?" Elijah paused, considering his words carefully. "Every generation of our family has faced its demons, Marcus. For James, it was chains and dogs. For me, it's the trenches and the gas. It's my fight." Marcus clenched his jaw, his voice choked with emotion. "And what if you don't come back? What if this fight takes everything from you?" Elijah met his gaze squarely. "Then it's a price I'm willing to pay. For respect, for equality, for a world where the next generation might not have to." A few days later, the train station was filled with the sounds of sorrowful goodbyes and promises to write. As the steam from the engine billowed around them, Elijah's mother held him tight, tears streaming down her face. "You carry our name, our legacy. But remember, it's not the battles you fight that define you, but the way you fight them." The train's whistle blew, signaling the start of his journey. As the landscape sped by, Elijah pondered the parallels between his great-grandfather's perilous escape and his own journey into the unknown. The contexts might be different, but the essence was eerily similar. In the distance, dark clouds gathered, mirroring the tempest in his heart. The path to freedom, whether from chains or prejudice, was never easy, and the unknown always demanded its pound of flesh. But for a freeman, stepping up to the challenge was in the blood.